Welcome to Nebraska Preps Postgame with Damon Benning and Jacob Padilla.
That's that voice. That means we are ready to go. We are a couple of days behind schedule, but we had Labor Day. And Tuesday, the hardest working man in our team, Jacob Padilla, was busy covering pressers. I mean, you do that college beat too, right?
Volleyball with a Creighton match on Wednesday, and then Tyler Hildebrand in Long Beach State coming back on Saturday after
it's going to be
taking down Texas early in the year.
It's going to be a tough weekend. So is it not pay to be highly ranked in volleyball this year or what? Because we've seen some upsets.
Yeah, it's been a wild start to the season, and now I think Nebraska was wise with how they laid out their non-conference schedule, where you kind of ease into the season, and now is when they hit their big matches after they were able to figure some things out, get some matches under the belt. Now they start taking on their tough opponents with Creighton. You got Stanford, you got Kentucky, all that coming up here to round out the non-conference.
Is that fairly big time?
Yeah, I think it'll be a nice way to ease into that the Big Ten schedule there, which will be tough once again.
Yeah, shout out to the Jays and Destiny and Dom Simpson.
Yeah.
Who was off to a very impressive start. See, what people didn't know about her is she played her last year at Westside. She wasn't all the way healthy. She kind of labored through this season. You're starting to see her at physically, she's going to start to peak.
There's no doubt. Like, I watched her play last 2-3 years of her high school career when she started at Bellevue West, and just undeniable, the athleticism, the powerful arm swing.
Yep.
It was just a matter of how much polishing she could do. Got a little wild at times, but if you can kind of dial in that talent, it's not hard at all to see why Creighton made the push to flip her from Hawaii.
Yeah, that was a heck of a get.
Oh, yeah. I saw that. I was like, oh, wow, okay. Because she committed to Hawaii pretty early. And then Creighton came in late, and I think she'll be a great fit for that program. So good to see her kind of I'm excited to see. Don't quite know who's going to be out there for the Jays because they've been doing a lot of rotation.
I feel a little similar to Nebraska, right? Kind of feeling their way along.
Yeah, it seems like Nebraska settled into kind of the last 3 matches they've rolled with the same starter. It seems like he's kind of set in on this as a group that he's going to roll with, and it's just a matter of can those players perform well enough to keep those jobs.
Playing the hot hand.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I mean, listen, we started right with preps, the rankings. A huge shakeup this week in Class A. Now, it held firm 1 through 8 in Class B. I don't think there were any changes. But in Class A, oh my goodness, put them in a tumbler, jumbler, and shake them all up. Only 3 undefeated teams left in Class A.
That's crazy.
Or is it 4?
We got 4 in the top 10.
Yeah.
Papio, Gretna, North, South, and West Side. But
isn't that something?
Yeah. And that's kind of what it looks like early. It's West Side is very clearly up here, and then anybody's guess. Because even North South is number 2 right now, very deserving of that. But I was there at that Elkhorn South game, and that wasn't a typical 33-0.
So that's what Ravi said.
Yeah.
I talked to him on Tuesday. Well, actually, I called him Friday night early.
Yeah.
Right. It's like you can tell we work together now because he gets he gets the first phone calls. I'm like, hey, you got to walk me through the score. I heard Runner got hurt. Talk to me. And he goes, it's kind of fluky.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to take anything away from Millard South. But now watching it, although both teams are kind of who I thought they were, Millard South very good up front. That defensive line is serious.
Yeah.
But Ashton Murphy, there were times he looked dominant against Millard South's O-line.
Yeah. So
we might as well start with Millard South, right?
Yeah. The flukiness thing, the wildest 3-play sequence, I guess 4-play if you include the kickoff that you'll see all season. So going down, neither team's able to do much early on, and then Jet Tamal rolls out, throws up a pass with pressure on him, overthrows his receiver, gets deflected up, and then somehow Amarion Jackson comes down with it, gets a 33-yard gain. They get a 15-yard penalty after the play, so they bumped him back up, and then from there they snap the ball, bad snap, goes past Tamala, Nolan Feller picks it up, takes off, looks like he's about to get tackled at the goal or at the line of scrimmage. manages to like spin around, stay on the defender's body, keep his feet off the ground. Now, Matt Foster got the video, and apparently he was down. His forearm hit the ground. Kept his knees, kept his legs off the ground, but the forearm touched down. So, but it looked live, like it could have gone either way. Like the first time I watched, like Foster pulled the video on his camera on the sideline while after the touchdown, we were looking at it, like it looks like he was up. So he had to really examine it. So no, like it shouldn't have counted, but at the same time, that's an impossible play to call live. You could, because you can't just assume that he's down,
right?
Because that was a heck of a play. He got up. Elkhorn South thought he was down, and then he was like, "I'm taking off and going." So
I was watching it Sunday at Channel 7 with Foster, and it's kind of odd how everybody stood around, but I could see how where they got that from.
So that gets him on the board. Extra point. I think it was blocked. So 6-0 kickoff. Drop the kickoff. Ended up Miller South gets the ball around inside the 15, somewhere around there. And then, so I guess Miller South ended up statting it as a fumble, not an interception, but they just crush Ronner. And ball comes out, and Jared Laquana catches it and like rolls into the end zone.
He's something else
for the touchdown. Whatever, pick six, fumble, recovery touchdown. Either way, it's a defensive touchdown for him. And they make the extra point. So just like that, it's 13-0. And I was still trying to catch up the craziness of those last few plays. I didn't even notice. Like I was texting Robbie, it's like, because like the second play on the ensuing play was a big sack, and
so I didn't play down, and you're writing your brains out because that's what you do.
I didn't notice until the third play that, hey, Ronner isn't in the game. So I don't know if it was on the touchdown or if it was on that sack that he got knocked out of the game, but it's one of those two. And he was out for the rest of the game, and they just could not move the ball at all. Backup quarterback wasn't quite ready for that stage.
It's hard to get a couple guys ready.
Yeah.
We're so paranoid. Like we get 3 guys work in practice because it's so as we're seeing, it's so quarterback driven.
Yeah.
Right. And Millard South is so good defensively right now that they're afforded the luxury right now of breaking in Tamala. And while that defense gets ready.
And the second, like the sequence that slammed the door shut on that game was late in the first half. Tamala got picked off. Very next play, North South, it's like 28 seconds left. Tried to throw a quick out to the sideline, and Dylan Cool picked it off, took it back 53 yards touchdown to put him up 23-0 going into halftime. And that was ball game. So a couple of wild sequences there in that game. But outside of that, like North South didn't really move the ball easily. Like Tamala didn't have a great day. He hit 12 completions to like 9 different receivers, 8 or 9 different receivers.
It sounds a lot like 7-on-7. He was spreading the wealth.
A lot of different guys involved there, but like they Fuller, like outside of that big run, he had an okay day. Wasn't great.
I still really like him.
Yeah, he's tough. Like
he's a nifty little tough. Nifty is the word I use. Is that too old? Like I know I'm almost 50, but I just think nifty. Like he's creative. You better make sure he's on the ground.
He's one of those exactly where like you're gonna get him for 0, 2, 3, and then he'll rip off a 30-yarder if you're not locked in every single play.
He has a relentless he has a relentless personality. Like he's just like that. He stays on the gas.
The best player on the field though was Laquana. North South had him 14 tackles, 3.5 for loss, 2.5 sacks. Had that defensive touchdown. He was just everywhere. And Aiden Miller was a beast as well. That whole defensive line, like mentioned Elkhorn South, they had less than 50 total yards, including I didn't calculate what it was after Ronner went out, but including his start to the game, they had less than 50 total yards of offense in the game. Like they just could not move the ball at all. The running game completely shut down by that Millard South front. So it's
rare to see 3 interior linemen like Laquana, Miller, and Murphy have that kind of impact in one game.
Yeah. And that's the thing about Elkhorn South. Like we don't know Ronner's status exactly. Like you get him back. I still feel good about them because of what they have around them. It's just their offense on that day and that matchup. That's they could least afford to lose him in that game, considering just what they were dealing with up front. They just never could get that running game going. And the passing game just didn't work. So
yeah, we may not even try to block Laquana. No, I'm serious. We may just put him in the read game and do what he doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, he's no look aheads, but we kind of know how the schedule breaks out and how we want to play teams. And I'm just telling you, that tandem between he and Miller, there's something else.
Yep. So yeah, Millard South definitely up there again. We'll see kind of.
Did you like those black? Do you like the black unis?
Yeah, they were nice.
Those
Military appreciation night.
Those were kind of sweet.
With the black and gray camo. It was pretty cool that night. It just, fortunately, the game didn't live up to it. But again, Millard South, very, very clearly a very good team. But again, I don't know that 33-0 against previous number 2 Elkhorn South or whatever it was, or 3-4, I think it was. That's this final score is a little
going into that one. Yeah.
The final score is a little deceiving. I think we still have things to learn about Millard South, and I think they've got a lot of room for improvement, which they can do with the amount of young players they've got out there. But very impressive start to the season for them. Just like a very impressive start of season for your Warriors, 45-0 against Grand Island. Man, Anthony Rizak, 16-20 for 249 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 carries for 58 yards, and 2 more touchdowns.
I don't know what to tell people. Hey, he's the real deal.
Very much so. And
I talked to so many Power 5 Division I guys, and I get the angst over the arm motion and the mechanics, but just imagine the upside teaching him quarterback delivery. Like, you get an already amazing athlete with sharpened mechanics and his competitiveness and his grit. Like, he's the real deal, and people will slowly come around. Like, I'm telling you, he's definitely the guy that makes us go.
Yeah. Speaking of the real deal, 7 of those completions went to one Caleb Benning for 112 yards and a touchdown. Pretty solid day. 3 tackles, 1 for loss. Jamez Ross, 14 carries, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns. Grand Island had 111 total yards, 31 yards on the ground, 80 passing. So
we've given up 7 points in 8 quarters. Something we'll give probably at Fireman Field on Friday night, but defensively they're kind of settling in. Everybody talks about our back end. Our D line is a handful, and we can play 6 guys, so that helps with RJ Eckhart, Campbell, Jonquel Ostler, Andrew Nilsson. Like, those guys are tough up front, really tough up front.
Yep, tough up front this weekend was Kearney, 41-6 over Fremont. They've climbed up to number 3.
Did they make the biggest jump, or was it Millard West?
It was probably Kearney, because I don't remember now. I don't have it.
I know Millard West was 10, and I think they went to
5 2-0 teams, because Kearney as well. So. They 41-6 against Fremont. They 270 yards on the ground on 23 carries, 4 touchdowns as a team. Abel Molina was the kind of the workhorse there.
Good player.
166 yards and 3 touchdowns on 7 carries. That'll get it done.
Did you say that number right?
Yeah. Carter Lee had a punt return touchdown. Caleb Larson had a pick 6. So they scored every way possible to get to that 41, basically. And Fremont had 92 total yards. So. Yep, we'll see more of Kearney as moving on, but I think
they got a big one this week.
Yeah, they got North Star. Oh, another 2-0 team, man. We more 2-0 than
6.
Yeah. So, but North Star, pretty good. I mean, obviously competition notwithstanding, but they've shown they've made progress. Like, they're separated themselves from.
I don't begrudge teams for handling their business. Yeah. They can't control who they play, and North Star's looked impressive.
But yeah, and they made some moves the last couple of years with some of the hires they made on that staff, and some of the athletes have been getting in there. So they've been trying to kind of make some strides there. So we'll see what they've got against Kearney this week.
Checking in at number 4 is the very impressive Millard West Wildcats. They had my attention from the jump, and didn't do anything this past week to disappoint.
So last week they lost. The difference was a missed extra point, correct?
To a good Millard South team.
This week, 19-16. Cameron Spicer, game-winning field goal to knock off Omaha North and hand them the loss after a really impressive start to the season for the Vikings. So I'll get my first look at Northwest on Thursday.
You got them against Burke.
Yep.
So here's the thing. Real quick on Burke. I watched a ton of their film, obviously, because previous opponent was Bellevue West. I think Burke is not bad. They're getting good quarterback play. They were better than I would have thought on film against Bellevue West. Color me curious on that one, because I think they can score.
Yeah, we'll touch on them in a second once we get to Bellevue West. But Marcus Buchanan, probably name to know, 207 yards receiving against Bellevue West.
Yeah. The jailbreak screen he broke, zero business. And matter of fact, Bellevue West played 4 over 3. So Bellevue West is in a 3 or Burke is in a 3-by-1. You don't see this alignment a ton, but Bellevue West they had a corner and outside linebacker, 2 safeties over the top, right? So how they play the weak side is how they play the weak side. But he caught this thing behind the line of scrimmage, and I mean, just weaving his way through traffic, and he was out of the back gate. It was pretty impressive. It was more about him than I think it was about Bellevue West not being very good back there, because there's a lot of quality guys back there in that secondary. You got to give him his due. That was a nice play that he made.
So get a chance to see him, get a chance to see Jackson Williams, see what they're working on over at Millwood.
Oh, how about that explosiveness between the two?
Yeah, so that'll be fun matchup there just with some of the athletes. But at Omaha North is sitting at 5 now after that loss. Millwood West moved up to 4. And North gets looking to bounce back at Columbus. So they got a trip here coming this weekend. Papillion Vista continues strong
got
start
a big
to the season.
win.
Yeah, that was
Columbus. Like, that did not go unnoticed. Some people call that a bad loss for Southwest.
Yeah.
That's a good win for Columbus.
And Southwest breaking in the young quarterback.
That'll happen.
But they've got some athletes on the outside as well. So Papillion Vista 28-7 win against Papio South.
I was a little surprised by that score.
Battle for Papillion. And we didn't know what to make of Papio South based on their start, considering the competition. Outside of had some impressive individual performances to start the year, but Papillion Vista, it was 7-0 or 7-7 at halftime, and then the Monarchs just took over in the second half, 21-0.
It's the second half in a row.
Yeah.
And
North, they were down.
The Monarchs have asserted themselves. I've been a big fan of their strength and conditioning program the last couple of years. You could see it coming. Their second halves have been impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, impressive.
Hard to be more efficient than Tavian Pirtle was. 11 for 12 for 133 yards and a touchdown, and also ran in a goal line touchdown. Peyton Prestito, you talked about well-conditioned. 19 carries, 149 yards on offense. Led the team 8 tackles on defense.
He's a horse.
Yeah. Isaac Pamaran as well. 7 for 105 and a reception, 4 tackles, an interception, a fumble recovery, just a little bit everything there. And Jordan Barrientos, their second running back, also had 55 yards and a touchdown, and caught a receiving touchdown as well. So offensively, had a lot of guys put up some numbers, but they held Derek Jones in check. 14 carries for 48 yards. And Sam Schuler, 10 of 18, 114 yards and a pick. Had 50 yards and a touchdown on the ground. But outside of that, they didn't have a whole lot going offensively with just 7 points. So, yeah, that Papio, I mean, we said like some of their pieces coming in, it looks like that defense is really coming together, and that Prestito, Pirtle kind of combination.
Pirtle continues to take good care of the football, too.
Yep. So, nice combination there. Another one that we were intrigued by, Gretna against that young but talented Omaha Central.
Impressive job by Gretna.
48-28. And Alex Wilcoxon. Hard to, you expect a huge fall off when someone like Zane Flores moves on, but hard to say there's been one. Just obviously they haven't played the top.
They know exactly what he's capable of 100%. Doing too, right? Just a well-coached team.
14-20 for 233 yards, 3 touchdowns. Did have 1 pick, but also 14 carries for 93 yards and 3 touchdowns. So yeah, that's you do that math. That's 6 touchdowns there. That'll get it done. Isaiah Weber, 20 carries, 172 yards and a touchdown. The 20-yard reception, had 9 tackles. Joey Veith had a pick and a 39-yard receiving touchdown. So just really impressive showing from Gretna here, who looks like they're very firmly in the mix. They're coming in at 7 this week, but they got a tough one this week against Creighton Prep.
So do we think we know who Creighton Prep is yet?
I don't think so, because I think they're still figuring out what they need to do offensively. I think
we just know McClay is really good,
and that's the thing. Like, he's really good, so they played him on offense this week, and that was the Thursday game. Prep held on for a 24-19 win against Millard North. Needed a 4th down stop in the red zone at the end of the game to seal it, and they got it done.
Yeah.
Like, that's talk about complete total pressure situation there. You got 4 downs to win the game, and they did it. It ended up two point afters in the game. Henry Bartholomew and Alex Costello. Caniglio had 203 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Also had a rushing touchdown, 33 yards on the ground. Zach McClay, 15 tackles, 1 for loss, doing what he continues to do. And then on offense, he had 3 catches for 64 yards and a touchdown. So
it's not my new man crush, but because I give a lot of kids love, but boy, does he fly under the radar. Every week I keep waiting for people to keep telling me what he isn't. And again, he's one of those guys. I just know what he is. He's a really good football player. You can keep trying to convince yourself he's not this, he's not that. You better figure out in a hurry where number 10 is on the football field.
And they got Michael Burdenball, 7 catches, 69 yards. Eddie Schaefer, a 31-yard touchdown. And then Jackson Wergler, again, kind of emerged as a deep threat. He had that big one against Bell West, 40-yarder in this one as well. So they're kind of figuring out, all right, what do they need to do to move the ball? Where do we need to put guys? What positions? I think they're still kind of figuring out that running game. Ruby had a tough day, but Angela Walker again showed some spurts there. You wonder kind of how that running game.
Yeah, they're going to divvy that up.
But yeah, so 24-19, Prep moves back up to number 10 in the rankings, and we'll get a chance against Gretna this week. And then we mentioned Bellevue West. They're at 8. They took care of business against Burke. 41-28 was the final. It was 27-0 at halftime,
and it was 34-6 at one point too.
So
that was a little misleading, but I do think Bellevue West defensively is still going to have to shore some things up, especially given the high-end talent that they have.
Yeah. So we mentioned 10 catches, 270 yards, and a touchdown for Marcus Buchanan. Amar Scott, 49 yards, touchdown on the ground. Nate Collins, 256 yards, 2 touchdowns, but also 2 picks. So defensively, it took advantage there. But Kalen, 15-23, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. CJ Goff, again, continues to be one of the better dual threat producers.
That's a good call. They do throw it to him quite a bit. Well, in the report, fine 24.
Yeah. 10 carries, 8 receptions, nearly 180 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So that'll get it done for your running back there. Spread the ball around again. No Isaiah McMorris again, I believe.
We're fully expecting to see him ready to go this week.
I would imagine so. But spread the ball around. Davon Hall, 43 yards. TJ Whaley, 45 yards. Jermaine Green had 2 touchdowns.
Young soft. So got a chance to be a super soft here shortly.
Yep. So that kind of takes us through the class, the top 10 in Class A. Probably need to speed up a little bit here to get through B, and then got a few other results to get through. But Bennington, probably the best game in Class B this week, was that Bennington Plasmith ended up 28-20. Bennington took care of business there, but impressive showing from Plasmith. It was kind of a back and forth wild game. 21-0 in the first quarter, and Plasmith came back 13-0 in the second quarter. Then Bennington scored the only touchdown in the third quarter, and then Plasmith scored in the fourth. So Bennington got the early lead, but Plasmith didn't go away, and they kept battling. They gave themselves a chance in the fourth quarter. And story of the game was Quentin Archer for the Badgers. 30 carries, 191 yards, and a touchdown. Also caught 2 passes for 26 yards and a touchdown. Sandman just 119 yards passing, 2 touchdowns and a pick. So not as much of the air. It was definitely a heavy ground game for them. But 11 tackles and a sack each for Ben Gillen and Jack Jansen, and Gillen also had a fumble recovery for a touchdown. So that defensive again, that Bennington defense is going to be what carries them throughout the season, and how good they can be, I think, will be determined by what you can get offensively, especially both the passing and the running game.
Yeah, that's a pretty good distinction right there.
So again, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 3 picks for Vilmonte. Moving forward there for Plattsmouth, you got to take care of the ball a little bit better there. They had 108 yards rushing as a team. I think that Plattsmouth is definitely looking to do more than that, but that's a tough defense to run again as well. Elkhorn North took care of business, 48-0 against Lincoln Northwest, sitting there at number 2.
Coming off an early season bye.
Yeah.
They look fresh and well rested after playing in week 0 and not playing last week, and then rolling out this past Friday.
Northwest, 10 yards on 12 carries on the ground. So that's what the Elkhorn North defense was looking to do. Scott,
but we know they're good up front.
Yes, very much so. Scott, number 3, 30-14 over Grand Island Northwest. Dylan Van Dyke got his first start. 11 for 14, 119 yards and a touchdown. 3 carries for 24 yards. Colin Pike, solid on the ground, 74 yards rushing and a touchdown. They held Grand Island Northwest to 51 yards on the ground and forced 3 interceptions. So it was 30-0 after the third quarter, and then Grand Island added on a couple of touchdowns in the fourth. So good showing from Scott. And at 4 is Waverly. Speaking of good showing, 42-0 against Beatrice.
Pretty impressive.
We talked about kind of run heavy. But this week, Nolan Maz aired it out a little bit more, 15-19, 247 yards, touchdowns. And then he also had 66 yards on the ground and another score.
By the way.
Yeah. The Cassins and Aiden Smith duo, both really effective, combined for about 100 yards, 4 touchdowns between the two of them. And Owen Stoddard was the deep threat, 4 catches, 94 yards, and a touchdown there. And then Scottsbluff jumping up, taking on, we talked about how tough North Platte is to play, but Scottsbluff practices against that type of team in practice every day. So they're used to it. 24-21 win for the Bearcats, who are off to an impressive start this year. It was a 21-7 at half, and then 14-3 second quarter to kind of get back into it. Nate Kelly only threw 5 passes, completed 3 for 18 yards, had 17 carries, 70 yards, but 13 tackles and a fumble recovery. So pretty solid 2-way performance there. Sebastian Boyle, ho-hum, 25 for $150 and a touchdown. Carter Reisig had 3 catches for 36 yards, or 3 carries for 36 yards and a touchdown. Had a 13-yard receiving touchdown. Had 7 tackles and a fumble recovery. So those are kind of the 3 big names early on for the Bearcats. Those are going to be their team leaders, and that was a really impressive performance from Scottsbluff to start the year.
Yeah, Class B is going to be interesting because the one team that I like is that I felt like had a chance to be last year's Gross, York.
21-0 against Hastings, coming in at number 2. Good start to see, and now they'll get a chance to prove it for sure.
Yeah, now I got to put
put
my money where my mouth is, right? Like I just think that's a team that had a chance because I think they were 10th, maybe in the preseason top 10, and I'm like, that's the team that them and Plattsmouth were the 2 teams that I could see kind of having that run coming from off the grid.
Yep. Seward at number 8, grinder against Lincoln Pius 10, 2013 win. Was 13-all after the third quarter, and then Seward won the fourth, got the go-ahead touchdown and held on. Just a sophomore, Treston Haas at quarterback, threw for 322 yards and a touchdown, and also had a rushing touchdown. Couple of picks, but impressive performance from Seward there to grind that out again, get some young players there. And then Gross 28-0 over Westview, coming at 10, and they'll take on Elkhorn, who is at number 9 after a 20 snores. So
good to, if you're a Gross fan, good to see them off to a good start after losing so many good players off a very senior laden team a year ago.
It was all on the running back last year. Jake Garcia now, Colby Duncan, returning quarterback. He's been their best playmaker. Got a couple of athletes out wide to throw to, but he's kind of been doing the heavy lifting from what I've seen for them. So C1, the big results, Boone Central,
they look pretty dominant.
42-0 against Aurora. And then Wahoo, 28-21 over Ashland Greenwood. So those are the top 2 teams now. Roncalli is at 3. over after a 35-0 win at Nebraska City, and then Ashland Greenwood at 4, Aurora at 5, and they play each other this week. So one of those teams is going on
Aurora
their
maybe
losing
licking
streak.
their wounds a little bit. They need a quick bounce back against a quality opponent.
Yeah. The couple of the shout outs that we definitely need to bring attention to. Pierce senior Keenan Valverde, 31 carries for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns rushing. Had a 12-yard reception, had a tackle, had a pick. Was also their kickoff man, kicked off 5 times, and converted a 2-point try.
Is that pretty good?
28-20 win.
I wonder if that's complete.
Over Columbus SCOTUS. And then congrats to Connor Booth, committed to Nebraska, the junior from Wahoo Newman. 14 carries for 313 yards and 5 touchdowns in a 62-10 win against Lincoln Lutheran.
Did that guy get all 8 points? Did he get 6 and 2?
Just a big, strong kid right there. Big, strong kid.
In the last Class C, the other kind of noteworthy result, Norfolk Catholic, 31-14 over Ord. It was 2 versus 1. And now Norfolk Catholic back up there at number 1. It was 14-0 or 14-all at halftime. And then Norfolk Catholic just dominated second half.
It's a familiar spot for NC.
And Nord will will have to bounce back against number 2 Battle Creek as they fall into number 4. So some great matchups early in the season, some of those smaller classes, and some teams made some really impressive wins.
Again, you'll be at Burke Millard West on Thursday. Is it a toss-up for Friday night, or are you?
I think we might be doing full staff, doubling up that at Westside Bellevue West on Friday.
Let's hope we hold up our end of it. That's another episode. I feel like it's speed dating with Jacob Padilla and I on another edition of NEB Preps. We'll be back next Monday. And you know what I like to tell you, don't you dare miss us.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.